Good morning, everybody. My name is Octavio Saenz, the Public Information Officer for the Texas Department of Transportation. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us here today as we kick off the 14th annual Click It or Ticket Seatbelt Safety Campaign. I'd like especially to thank our media partners for being out here today. You help us carry this message, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, because your message saves lives. And that's essentially why we're all here together. Essentially what the Texas Department of Transportation and its partners do, save lives. We're here today in front of this giant cracked windshield with a driver flying through the glass and boots sticking out to remind Texans about the deadly consequences of not wearing a seatbelt. Over the past 14 years, the Click It or Ticket campaign has helped save thousands of lives and prevented thousands more from being seriously injured in crashes on our Texas roads and highways. Now, we have made major strides since we first started with the campaign in 2002, and our state's seatbelt use rate is now more than 90%. That is absolutely great, but in a state as large as the state of Texas, that still leaves more than 1 million motorists who have not yet gotten into the habit of always buckling up. The result is that way too many people are still dying or being seriously injured. So to help us launch this year's Click It or Ticket campaign, we're joined today by those who have seen firsthand the impact that seatbelts can have in protecting people in a crash. They will highlight seatbelt enforcement efforts that will be happening here and across the state, and also provide plenty of reasons so that all drivers and all passengers buckle up. I'd like to recognize this morning's speakers before I go on. With us today is Chief Victor Rodriguez from McAllen Police Department. Chief. We have Pete Alvarez, Deputy District Engineer for the Texas Department of Transportation. We have Diana Alanis, who will share her personal story and how a seatbelt saved her life. We have Sergeant Johnny Hernandez from the Texas Department of Public Safety. And we have a series of Rio Grande Valley Traffic Safety Coalition representatives. And I believe Dr. Robert Martinez with the Doctors Hospital Renaissance is joining us here this morning. Thank you very much for joining us, everyone. Now I would like to invite to the podium Chief Victor Rodriguez for welcoming remarks, speaking on behalf of the McAllen Police Department. Chief.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the city of McAllen, I want to welcome everybody here. I want to say that it's, I want to especially, and it's humbling to make this welcome to all our police officers that are here from across South Texas. We join together every day to have and make a difference on our communities. The very presence of police officers in our communities impact lives. Here today we're off to our Click It or Ticket campaign, and I want to say to you, and I want to ask everybody, have you ever been that driver that's going up the road and see a patrol officer coming down the other way against you, and all of a sudden you're checking for your seatbelt, and if you don't have it, you do it, you click it? To our police officers here today, I want to say that's the effect you have on our communities. You save lives by the work that you do, but you save lives by your very presence on our streets every day. And for that, we thank you. One more thing I'll tell you is that you will never know, in the lifetime of your career or in your lifetimes altogether, just what impact you have had. It is immeasurable. So for that, we thank you. For that, we welcome you here to McAllen today. And for that, we wish you Godspeed with your mission. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chief. You know, as I was reading the statistics, and we can say statistics and numbers till we turn blue in the face. I've always said that. But until you put a face that you know to an incident, that's when it really, really hits home. And it is a sad fact that traffic crashes claim the lives of more than 30,000 people in the United States every single year. Now, that number will be much, much lower if drivers across Texas and across the United States all buckled up all the time. Now, wearing your seatbelt not only helps you obey the law, but it is the most effective protection if you're in a serious crash. I would like now to invite to the podium a good friend and colleague. He's the Deputy District Engineer for Texas Park District, Mr. Pete Alvarez.
Thank you, Octavio, for allowing me the opportunity to be here today to help kick off our annual Click It or Ticket campaign and add my voice to our common sense plea for every driver and every passenger in the state of Texas to wear their seatbelts. When we first started the campaign in 2002, seatbelt use in Texas was stalled, and only 3 out of every 4 buckled up. Thanks to the stepped up law enforcement and the more than a decade of reminders to always buckle up, now 9 out of 10 drivers are using their seatbelts. That's real progress, and payoff is huge. Because of the higher seatbelt use in Texas over the last 13 years, there have been 4,000 fewer traffic deaths, nearly 67,000 fewer injuries, and more than 15 billion, that's billion with a B, in related economic savings. We're among the 18 states with seatbelt rates over 90%. But from our point of view, that's not enough. Why? Because every single day, Texans are still needlessly suffering serious injury or dying in traffic crashes because they're not buckled up. Last year, there were more than 2,500 vehicle crashes in Texas in which unrestrained vehicle occupants sustained serious or fatal injuries. We're here today for one reason, and that is to remind drivers and passengers to always use their seatbelts. If you aren't in the habit of buckling up, whether you're driving or riding in a vehicle, today is a perfect day to start. If you always use your seatbelt, you're a great example. And we ask that you encourage the family, your friends, your neighbors to buckle up each and every time when getting in a vehicle also. When I think about a few seconds it may take to buckle up versus a tragic loss suffered by a Texas family when a loved one is ejected from a vehicle and dies because of not being restrained, the importance of the annual campaign is crystal clear. Wearing a seatbelt increases the chances of surviving a serious crash by 45% if you're in a passenger vehicle. If you're driving or riding in a pickup like millions of Texans do, your survival odds are even greater, and they go up to 60%. That's because pickups are more likely to roll over in a crash, and if you're wearing a seatbelt, you won't be thrown from the vehicle. In 2014, 244 out of the 526 pickup truck drivers killed in crashes in the state were not wearing seatbelts. That's almost half. The bottom line is, no matter what kind of vehicle you drive, seatbelts save lives. But for some people, it takes more than a reminder about the safety benefits of seatbelts to get them to buckle up. It takes the prospect of getting an expensive ticket to get their attention. This month, our officers throughout Texas will be stepping up law enforcement of state law that requires drivers and passengers in Texas to use their seatbelts in the front and in the back seat. We are very appreciative of the officers' support for the Click It or Ticket campaign, and we know that because of your efforts, thousands of lives are being saved and more people will stay alive because what they do. I'd like to extend my personal thanks to all the police officers that are here today who represent state troopers, the police and sheriff's departments all over Texas, who are going to be working overtime in a couple of weeks to keep Texas highways safer. Safety is TxDOT's #1 priority. We're doing all we can to build and maintain the best and safest highway system in the nation. We're sponsoring campaigns like Click It or Ticket to urge motorists to take personal responsibility for their efforts and be smart and careful drivers. Safely getting to your destination involves going to do a lot of things right when you're behind the wheel. But it starts with the simple action of all, fastening your seatbelts. Please remember, buckling up can protect you in a crash, and it can also protect you from getting a citation. Click it or ticket. Thank you.
As always, thank you very much, Pete, always for your work and dedication to this cause and to safety, of course. You know, the Click It or Ticket campaign, we've said it many, many times. It has saved thousands of lives. For some people, you would say it saved thousands of dollars by not getting a fine. But I ask you, how much is one human life worth? Because that's the cost of not wearing your seatbelt. What are those individuals who said, thank goodness I was wearing my seatbelt? She's alive today. She's joining us today because of her seatbelt use. She's going to share a story, so I'd like to invite her to the podium, Ms. Diana Alanis. Diana.
Thank you, Octavio. I am Diana Alanis, one of those thousands of people every year whose life was saved by wearing a seatbelt. I am glad I was wearing my seatbelt when on April 1st, my car crashed. You hear about car accidents every day, but it's not until you live through one that you know the horrors that follow. Pain became a companion to the disorientation I felt. Minutes felt like hours, and I felt alone. I was alive. I still recall that my chest felt like a raging fire. My car was a total loss. Not much I can do about that. As many young individuals these days, I did not have medical insurance. As a matter of fact, my first visit to the hospital ended up in a pile of bills. But I am alive. Throughout the whole experience, in the back of my mind, I couldn't help but to be happy that I was there standing and I was okay and alive. It was very scary driving alone and knowing there was no one around to help me at the moment. I ask everyone here to please wear your seatbelts, including checking your kids, checking your loved ones, calling them if they're wearing their seatbelts before driving, going to a destination, or anything. Please wear your seatbelts. You never know when it's going to happen. There's not a certain time or a specific day. So as the old saying goes, better to be safe than sorry. After the whole experience, it took me a while to get my confidence back and drive again. By wearing my seatbelt and following safety precautions, like making sure the seatbelt isn't too high on my neck or more across my chest. If I wasn't wearing my seatbelt, I could have died on impact. I don't know what my family and all the people close to me would do if they knew something horrible would happen to me. No one expects to be involved in a serious crash. I know I certainly didn't at all. I'm just so glad I was wearing my seatbelt that day, because I don't think I would be here if I wasn't. Buckling your seatbelt is the best way to protect you and those riding with you should a car crash occur. It only takes a couple of extra seconds and it can save your life and many others' lives. I put my seatbelt on every time I get into a vehicle. If I'm the driver, then I don't start my car until I look around and make sure that everyone riding with me has a seatbelt on. I encourage you to do the same. Thank you for letting me share my story.
You know, I spoke with Diana before, as we were preparing for this event, and it's true what she says. You don't know. We hear about crashes so often that sometimes we have no feeling about it. Our feelings are numb when it comes to crashes. But when it happens to you, if you've been involved in a car crash, you do realize how time seems to stop for a moment. Everything's heightened. Your adrenaline is rushing through, and of course, after the event, you have all these these bills and things that you have to take care of, the car, etc. So it's better to pay medical bills, better to fix a car than to plan a funeral. So thank you, Diana, again for sharing your story. One of the individuals that I'm bringing up next to the podium is a medical professional that could talk to us a little bit about just how fragile the human body really is and how a car crash can really cause terrible harm to a body, and how a seatbelt use can actually protect you and save your life. So please help me welcome from Doctors Hospital Renaissance, Dr. Robert Martinez. Dr. Martinez.
Hello and good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Thank you all for coming. It's very nice to see the community, all law enforcement out to hopefully educate people about this particular effort. My name is Dr. Martinez. I'm the Chief Medical Officer at Doctors Hospital at Renaissance. And I can tell you this is something that affects everyone, like I said. It no doubt has affected me. I still remember things, it's a personal story, but, even back when I was in the 8th grade, I can still remember I was involved in an awful accident. Back when cars didn't have very many seatbelts. They had a couple, but not certainly a lot. That's when cars were still made of significant steel. But I can tell you it changed my life because the teacher that didn't come away, that was driving us, was left in a vegetative state. I still think about her all the time. My best friend in high school, as he was getting ready to prepare during this time to go, full scholarship to SMU in college, was killed in a car accident because he was not wearing a seatbelt. So terrible loss I have seen many, many times, both personally and professionally. At Doctors Hospital at Renaissance, we pride ourselves in having the best available at all times. We have the only traumatologist, south of San Antonio that is a specific doctor dedicated to only trauma. I can tell you that not even him or any of the technology we have will save you if you don't do something as simple as wearing a seatbelt. Seatbelts really are a fascinating and very effective way to protect yourself and your family in a car, a truck, whatever you're wearing. We see the effects, unfortunately, as I'm over the emergency room. I know everything that goes through there on a daily basis. I can tell you almost on a daily basis we see the problems that occur when a patient is unrestrained. I had one last week, unfortunately. I can almost tell you just by looking and hearing about the injuries who was restrained and who was not restrained. The patient unfortunately passed away 2 days ago. She had every bone in her body was broken. Her face was crushed. Her neck was broken. She wasn't wearing a seatbelt. The other survived. She did not. 35 years old. I can tell you it's pretty awful to have to tell the kids of a 35-year-old that their mother's not coming home. Those are the kind of things that we can help avoid just by simply putting on your seatbelt. As wonderful as technology is in vehicles today, cars, trucks, they're made very strong. They're made with fantastic airbags. The frame is more sustainable now, and they're able to protect you from much more, but they can't stop you from moving in the wrong direction if you're not wearing your seatbelt. That seatbelt is key to you not crushing your face, you not leaving the vehicle, and causing other terrible, terrible injuries. So the seatbelt really is a very easy way for people to protect themselves and be able to allow the technology in today's vehicles to do the job that was meant to do. Like I said, every day I see the unfortunate side effects of not wearing seatbelts. It can disfigure folks. It can leave them, mentally incapable for the rest of their life. The least of which is pain that you will have for the rest of your life. And family members, they will never come back because people choose not to wear seatbelts. So I can tell you firsthand the awful things that we see in our emergency room on a daily basis, half of which I anticipate, no matter how fast you're going, can be avoided if you just put on a seatbelt. Like I said, I can tell you right away who was wearing a seatbelt and who's not wearing a seatbelt just by listening to what happened to them and what their injuries are. And so I encourage everyone here, our law enforcement folks are out, and I'm guilty every once in a while of not wearing it. I'm happy to say that when I have my family members, they all yell at me before I move anywhere, and I put it on. And so that needs to be commonplace for everyone when you get into the vehicle. I am one also that even though I have on my seatbelt, when I see an officer somewhere, I panic, make sure I have it on. And so we thank you guys for being there. We know you guys are just trying to do your job. You are making this place of ours much safer just by your mere presence, and you've saved lives, like Chief Rodriguez said, without you even knowing it, because you were able to do that, and you're out on the streets and enforcing the laws. So again, I guess my main message today as a medical professional is we want to help you. We want to be able to be there for you when you need you. We don't want to see you under those conditions. We'd rather have our traumatologist sitting watching TV, doing nothing. We're happy to pay him doing that. Unfortunately, he has plenty of work. We want to see that decrease over time. It's efforts like this that will help us do that. We encourage you to talk to your family members and friends. Remind them at all times, put on your seatbelt. It really makes a significant difference in the injuries that we see. And it's something so easy to do. All the fancy cars we have today, with all their fancy technologies, will do you no good if you're unrestrained and you're bouncing around, or worse, thrown out of your car because you just didn't put that seatbelt on. So again, I can't encourage you more. Put your seatbelt on. It makes a difference. These folks want to be able to help you, but if they get to the scene and you're either not in your car or in an awful state, they're not going to be able to do anything. They're not going to be able to call anybody that's going to be able to help you. You need to give them a chance to help you, and putting on that seatbelt will allow that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Martinez. You know, the campaign Click It or Ticket relies on our law enforcement partners around the state to echo Dr. Martinez's words. Now, to share a few words on this year's enforcement efforts, please welcome to the podium a very good friend from our sister agency, the Department of Public Safety, Sergeant Johnny Hernandez.
Well, good morning. I'm Sergeant Johnny Hernandez. Let me start by sharing some facts with you today. Seatbelts save lives and protect motorists from serious injuries and crashes. As you've heard, there's been almost 3,500 fatalities in Texas last year. Without a doubt, some of those people would still be with us today if they would have been properly restrained. State law requires that everyone in the vehicle must be properly restrained, period. That means children must be properly restrained with child safety seats that are appropriate to their age and height. Not complying can be expensive. A ticket can cost you as much as $200 plus court costs. And remember, in Texas, you can be pulled over simply for not being buckled up. One of the reasons that we support Click It or Ticket is because enforcing seatbelt laws is something that DPS troopers do 365 days a year. You know, the Department of Public Safety, we prefer voluntary compliance with traffic laws. Voluntary compliance. Believe it or not, if we would prefer to never write another ticket, we wouldn't. And I don't think any officer here would do that either. In Hidalgo County, last year we gave more than 3,000 citations, just Hidalgo County. That's just DPS. That's not including all the rest of the agencies. So you can imagine how many seatbelt tickets we're giving out, where we shouldn't be doing that. State law requires everybody needs to start wearing safety belts. In 2015, in which we are this year, we've already issued out 1,200 tickets for that violation, and the year is not over. You know, you've heard every excuse, but excuses won't protect you in a crash. I think the worst part of our job is to go notify the next of kin that you've been killed. I don't like doing that. I don't think any officer here likes doing that. I don't like to see the reaction of families when we tell them that they've been killed in a crash, and it could have been prevented if they would just wear a safety belt. I've gone to so many fatalities, and the contributing factor to that fatality is not wearing a safety belt. Everybody else in the vehicle that was restrained lived. And that's like Diana. That's like Diana being here today with you, letting you know that she lives another day. She breathed another day. With that said, make the right choice. The simple choice. The smart choice. Buckle up, everyone in your vehicle. And we'll see you next year. How's that? Have a great day.
Thank you very much, Johnny. I'd like to thank all the speakers for being here today. I'd like to thank all the law enforcement officers here and the media and everybody here who knows that this is a community effort, that we need to send a message, we need to be examples of that message and ensure that anybody that's in a vehicle is buckled up safely. As we enter this summer driving season, I hope everyone will remember the click it or ticket slogan. We're proud that Texas is one of the 19 states in the United States with a seatbelt rate of 90% or higher. But as Texans, we like to reverse the current trend that puts Texas as a national leader when it comes to fatalities on our roads. As I was listening to Johnny, I remembered something I had read a few months ago. It said that every single human being does two things, or does a thing, an act for two reasons: fear or love. When we say click it or ticket, that's the fear of a violation, of a traffic fine. But when we say click it or ticket or worse, we want you to think about family, about life, about where you are, your current state of being. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we are all blessed. Just the fact that we're here today. So, buckling up is not just to obey the law, it's to live another day. This concludes this press conference. We'll be available for more information. Oh, I apologize. I almost missed something else. First of all, I'd like to recognize some of our TxDOT colleagues here. Ruby Martinez in Frank Science from Traffic Division. And also, we have the Rio Grande Valley Traffic Safety Coalition representatives. We'll bring up here Chief Orlando Rodriguez from Brownsville, Chief Rodriguez again from McAllen, and Chief Jeffrey Addix from Harlingen. Gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Just a couple of words in closing, but I want to address to the officers that are here today. Every officer that you see here in front of you, behind you, has at one time or another, or maybe still do work the streets and enforce traffic laws, and they all have their pet peeves. Maybe speeders, maybe people running red lights, maybe people who are texting and driving. All of these are dangerous practices. Now you add a seatbelt violation in an accident, and it gets really worse from there on. So that's why we challenge our officers to continue to enforce these laws day in and day out. And I'm pleased to be here on behalf of the RGV Traffic Safety Coalition to support Click It or Ticket. Many Texans are getting the message to wear their seatbelts. However, not all of them are. We see, unfortunately, that a lot of passengers are going to be less likely to use seatbelts than drivers. And as you heard earlier, pickup truck drivers wear their seatbelts at a lower level than people in regular vehicles. And you know the consequences of being involved in an accident in a pickup truck. It could be deadly. The numbers show that. Just a reminder that in Texas, everybody, from the driver and all passengers, must be wearing their seatbelts when they're on the roads on our streets. So we're hoping that officers are going to stay safe, enforcing our laws. We personalize it ourselves because a lot of us have seen these accidents firsthand or maybe have been involved in them. So good luck to our officers out there enforcing the Click It and Ticket campaign, and wish you the best of luck and safety from now on. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, on behalf of the City of McAllen, our City Mayor and our Commission, we want to welcome you to McAllen. We once again want to let you know how proud we are of our police officers that get out and get up every day to face the challenges that they do. I am pleased to be here on behalf of the RGV Safety Coalition to support the Click It or Ticket campaign. In case you're one of the people not getting the message, our officers will be watching for you May 18th through May 31st during the increased seatbelt enforcement period. We take part in this because we know that it saves lives. Part of our job as law enforcement officers is to help keep the public safe. We can't do it alone. We need your help. You can help us by wearing your seatbelt. Thank you.
On behalf of the City of Harlingen and the Harlingen Police Department, thank you for the invitation to be a part of this morning's presentation. One of the things I think is part of the Rio Grande Valley Safety Coalition is, if I want to bring it home, you heard from Ms. Alanis and Dr. Martinez, when we do have a serious injury or a fatality collision where someone is not restrained, people come together, and it's an impact that it has on everyone in that accident. It doesn't stop with the collision investigation by the officers you see here. It doesn't stop with the family. It doesn't stop with the emergency room workers, the firefighters, or the paramedics. Everybody is pulled into that event and is never the same after that. That memory stays with them forever. People ask many times, why is law enforcement so aggressive in the ticket or click campaign and the ticket writing for unrestrained drivers in partnership with TxDOT? And as Sergeant Hernandez said, I can tell you, you look around behind me and all the different uniforms here, but there's one thing that these folks have in common. Every one of them has investigated a collision involving a fatality or a serious injury where a person was unrestrained. And that's why we go out and we investigate, we write the tickets for the unrestrained drivers so aggressively in partnership with TxDOT to save lives, because none of these officers want to work another collision. Dr. Martinez doesn't want another victim in his ER. We don't want to go talk to another family and explain that they've lost a loved one. So for that, thank you. Decades-long partnership with TxDOT, Ruby Martinez, our regional coordinator, and to the men and women of law enforcement in the Valley, thank you very much. Click it or ticket or worse.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much to everybody here. This now concludes this press conference. We will be available for one-on-one interviews. Thank you.